Hello and welcome to the Lou Review. This is your host, Rosa, and today I have a very seasonally exciting guest. This is Julie Englehart. She's also known as Mrs. Claus.
That's right.
How did I get the illustrious Mrs. Claus to come over? My daughter is over the moon.
Mm-hmm.
So, Julie, when did you become Mrs. Claus?
Boy, that's a really good question. I started performing as Mrs. Claus back in 2010. So I've been doing this for 13 years.
Ooh.
And the way I got started, we were living in California in a very small town called Hollister, which is about 2 hours south of San Francisco, about 45 minutes inland from Monterey. And very lovely little town, but just not a lot for children to do or families to do.
Much like the Hollister store?
Actually, there's nothing, they're not related to each other.
Oh, they're not?
Completely different.
Oh, it didn't even start there?
No, it didn't. No.
Weird. Okay.
No, it has a very agricultural-based background to it, so it's a very interesting little place. But I've always enjoyed reading to my sons. I have two adult sons. And I worked as a substitute teacher, and that was one of my very favorite things to do was story time. Mm-hmm. So at the time we were living in 2010, a lot of budget cuts, things happening in town, and one of the things that happened sadly was that the library's hours were cut. Mm. And I started thinking I really wanted to reach out to the community to provide a reading program, a literacy program. So I contacted this very cute little coffee shop called Mars Hill. Mm-hmm. And I always think about it because it reminds me of Central Perk on Friends. So it's much different than a regular coffee shop, kind of a bigger footprint, overstuffed chairs, couches, and they had a little stage there. So I contacted them and I asked if I could come and do a story time program. And they said, sure. So my mom worked as a librarian for 30 years in Southern California, and part of the time she would work as a children's librarian and put together story programs, and I kind of got my ideas from her, and she would always theme it. So I didn't want to just get a mishmash of books. I wanted to have a specific theme. So my very first one was a pirate story time.
Ooh, fun.
I was very nervous, and I didn't think anybody would show up. And by the end of the hour, I was told that 72 people had shown up for the story time program.
Did you dress like a pirate for that?
I dressed like a pirate. I did. And the kids did too. And we just had a great time. So I kept going on through the summer and then the fall and then, winter. December was coming close. So I'm thinking, what can I be for the holiday season?
Yeah, what indeed.
Yes, exactly. And that's where I got the idea to become Mrs. Claus.
Because you're pretty young to be thinking about being Mrs. Claus. I mean, that had to take a lot of powder.
Well, I was in my late 40s at the time when I did that. So, you see women of all ages who are actually portraying Mrs. Claus. So you get some very young women and you've got women who are older than I am.
Nice.
It's just how you embody the whole character and the spirit of the holiday.
Right. She's probably eternally young. So
that's right. Exactly. That's how I feel.
Yeah. Eternally young. Those kids keep you young, right?
Right. Exactly.
So how in the world did you get to Louisville from California?
Well, my husband, Don, and I, and our son, Chris, who was 13 at the time, we moved out for a job for my husband. He actually works at one of the TV stations here in town. Oh. He had worked for a sister station out in Salinas, California, and kind of had a job promotion, and so we came out. And I was kind of really getting into being Mrs. Claus, and I started to worry about it because we don't have any friends here. We don't have any family here. And so I've really had to learn how to do a lot of networking during the past 8 years. And I think one of the very first places I contacted was Santa Claus, Indiana. Contacted their chamber, and I said, hey, do you need a Mrs. Claus for an event or something? And they actually put me over to the museum up in Santa Claus. Okay. And I went there and I did story programs and interacted with the children and just had a great time. So I just started making phone calls to a lot of places, and over the 8 years it's just really grown, and I'm very thankful for that.
So you have some places where you go every year?
Trying to think. For the past 4 or 5 years I've been Mrs. Claus at Churchill Downs. Ooh. And that's been a lot of fun. I do not have, my husband is not a Santa.
Oh.
So I am able to kind of source out. There's actually a big Santa Claus community throughout the Bluegrass State.
Oh,
and
good.
there's a gentleman named Chris Burton who lives over in Winchester, Kentucky. And so I brought him on board. And so we've been Santa and Mrs. Claus there for the past few years.
Fantastic.
For a couple of years, I was Mrs. Claus at the Waterfront Botanical Gardens, which was a lot for their Gardens of Glimmer. That was so much fun.
Wow.
Yeah. And the way I met Chris actually was that I answered an ad for over in Versailles. They have a train museum over there, and they have a Santa train that they do.
Oh, how cute.
So that's where I met Chris, and it's so much fun. We have 3 cars that we go up and down and interact with the children and sing songs and do all kinds of things. And this year I feel very fortunate because I am going to be visiting, about 15 or 16 assisted living facilities.
Ooh.
And the idea came from my mom, who's in assisted living out in California, and seeing how much they appreciate having activities or entertainers or people like that to come in. And I actually have a really good friend in California for over 20 years. He does performances as Thomas Jefferson, Thomas Alva Edison, George Washington, and he does a lot of them at assisted living. So that's kind of where I got the idea from as well.
Yeah, and there is such a huge need, like people who live in assisted livings and nursing homes, they
Right.
need a lot more social interactions because they can't get out, so they need it to come to them.
Right.
So how's that look different for you as Mrs. Claus going in to see the elderly versus seeing the children and interacting with them?
That's an excellent question. And I've been kind of fretting over it, to be honest with you, because I do kind of gear my program towards children, where it's primarily I have a list of books that I will read, such as 'Twas the Night Before Christmas or The Polar Express. But again, not knowing what the situation is going to be going into assisted living, you know, if it's going to be mostly memory care or if it's going to be people who are still able to kind of understand what's going on and everything. So I've been working probably, Rosa, for the past month on kind of a script and a program and all. And I'm going to be talking about holiday traditions, not only in the United States, but also in several countries. And I've been teaching myself how to say Merry Christmas in different languages.
Oh, how fun!
Feliz Navidad, for Spanish. And I'm kind of struggling with Germany, but I'll get it, hopefully.
Can I hear your best attempt?
Frohe Weihnachten.
Frohe Weihnachten.
Something like that.
Okay.
So it's probably not accurate, and I apologize to our
Hey,
German
you're
listeners.
practicing.
So
You're practicing. That's
Right.
great.
But-
We do have a lot of people of German descent here, so
Right.
that's great.
So just been thinking about that and kind of circling back to my visit to Santa Claus, Indiana. And I'd forgotten about this and going through all my kind of treasures and everything. They have a wonderful book that they published probably 10 years ago, and it's called Letters to Santa. And they have it in different categories. So they have letters that were sent up to Santa Claus, Indiana, to the museum. And it starts in the 1930s. And it goes all the way to the 2010s.
Oh, wow.
So reading the different eras or the different decades and, what children wanted. They wanted candy or oranges, or they wanted just a little something, daddy's not working. And again, you're going through the Depression, things like that. To kids, to more modern times, I want an Xbox or Nintendo or a phone or that type of thing. So it's been an interesting historical look at how letters to Santa have progressed over, nearly 100 years.
Oh, yeah. I'd love to take a look at that. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's a really interesting book.
So, did I see you wanted to do something with ornaments for the assisted livings? Or?
Yeah, I would like to be able to give an ornament to as many of the senior residents as possible.
So not as a craft to make with them when you're there.
No, not necessarily, because again, witnessing my mom being in assisted living, and they would bring people in to do arts and crafts. But again, at 92, she has lost a lot of the use of her hands through arthritis or shaking, that type of thing. And I want this to be something just to be able to give them.
Yeah.
So I have been putting kind of an all call out on social media to see if there are people who'd be willing to donate. They don't have to be new. They don't have to be spectacular. Just a little something that I can give to these residents. And I'm overwhelmed and shocked by the amount of outpouring that I've received.
Good.
And actually, Spectrum News locally, they did a little story on me a couple weeks ago.
And about the ornaments?
About the ornaments.
Wow.
They came out. I was actually at a place near Churchill Downs called Tickled Pink. I don't know if you're familiar with that place or not, but it's like an antique store. You know, they take estate sales and come in, and they had so many ornaments, and they came out and they did the interview there. Nice. And then she came to my house and finished up the interview. But I have friends, in Tennessee, in California, in North Carolina, and here in Louisville in Kentucky, who have contributed. And I got the bag out the other day and counted, and I probably have close to 250 ornaments that I've gathered. But I'm hoping to get more because I just want to share with everybody if I can.
Definitely. Yeah. Do you already have appointments to go to different facilities?
I do.
You said you're pretty booked already for the holidays, right?
I'm trying to think, and I'm really bad about keeping records, but I have probably about between 12 to 15 places that I'm going to.
Okay.
And it's primarily in the Kentuckiana area. There are a couple I'm going to be doing in E-Town.
Okay.
They just got in touch with me the other day. And so I'm just, I'm pretty busy. I'm going to be out of the train as well. I have some home appointments, Churchill Downs again. So,
So for Churchill Downs, is it for specific events, or like did they book you for a whole day? Or how's that work?
It's like closing weekend, I think, for the season. And generally it's on the Friday and Saturday right after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
I'm just going to be there on Friday since I'm going to be out in Versailles. But they have a schedule, and so we're on Millionaires Row, and then we're down kind of on the main bedding floor, and just, people can come up and take their pictures with us. And oftentimes they have a hot chocolate bar with marshmallows and candy canes and sprinkles and things like that. And cookies. Their catering department is wonderful. They just make wonderful treats there. So
I bet.
Yeah, but it's been wonderful being there at Churchill Downs.
Do you have any more bookstores or coffee shops that you're booked for this holiday season?
Not this year.
Okay.
No.
Really focusing on the assisted livings and stuff like that?
Yeah, definitely so. I don't have a lot of public appearances, just again with Churchill and the train, but that's about it. So.
The train sounds so cute. We did do the Bardstown dinner train, and that was fabulous. Have you ridden on that for the dinner?
I've not, no.
Oh my goodness. I want to do their Murder on the Orient Express.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Right? But I mean, we were very impressed with their Christmas version. So if you ever get to be Mrs. Claus for that, you send me a message.
I will.
You'd be like, hey, Rosa, get your tickets now.
Yeah.
It's happening.
I've heard great things about it. I've had friends who've gone on it, and they just say it's a marvelous experience. So keeping my fingers crossed. It would be wonderful to do that too.
Yeah, definitely. So, that is just incredible. Like, I love that you're reaching out to people who really need that. How much singing do you do, or are you planning to do when you go?
Well, I probably won't be trying to carry a tune on my own, but I do. I have some things pulled up from YouTube, and I have good old-fashioned Christmas CDs and my old-fashioned boombox, and so I'm going to.
Because you never know what kind of equipment that you're going to have.
That's right, exactly.
Place.
But I realize with again that population how much music is very important to them, and I'm planning to incorporate that as well. We're also going to play a couple of games. We'll see how that goes. It's going to be the alphabet game where you have the letters and name something Christmassy that begins with the letter A, B, C, D. So I've been working on that and have my own list in case I would forget at that time. So
Yes.
And again, with the ornaments, I'm going to try and incorporate kind of a dice game where if they roll like a 2, 3, or 4, they get a blue package or a green package or something like that. So it's a progress in work, but I'm looking forward to kind of experimenting with being at the assisted living to see how well it goes.
Yeah, I love this whole concept because it's definitely meeting a need, and
Right.
yeah, and you're obviously like really passionate about it. So to focus on your passion is,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way to stay alive, right?
Right.
And give you purpose and meaning.
Right. Exactly. And again, this all started out, 13 years ago with wanting to promote literacy and reading to kids, and that's still a passion of mine as well. But again, as I keep repeating myself, is that with my mom being in assisted living during the past year and a half, I really see this kind of, it's like kind of a forgotten population, unfortunately. And a lot of people, they're not getting the visitors or that type of thing. And so I'm hoping, even if I'm there just for an hour and a half, that I can bring a little bit of happiness and fun and joy to their lives.
You're right, definitely. Would you want to pair up with any carolers or?
If somebody wanted to come out and sing, yeah.
Right. Yeah, we did some caroling last year. Our group isn't really doing it this year, but we had so much fun with that. Just, have a 30-minute set and go around, bounce around to different places.
That would be awesome.
Cheer it up.
That would be great. I know that the residents, and I know the activities directors are always looking for different people to come in. So it's definitely something that can be discussed.
Well, I really appreciate you reaching out to just kind of let us know what you're doing.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate that so much.
And so if people want to reach out to you, how can they contact you?
Sure. Well, I would say the best way is via my email. And that email address is jengelha@aol.com. Again, that's jengelha@aol.com.
And I will put that in the show notes just to make it really easy.
Okay.
It's kind of like an abbreviation of your name.
Right.
Julie Englehart.
Right.
So I will definitely put that in the show notes for anybody who wants to send you an email.
Great.
So I guess you don't want to make it too obvious to the children.
True.
Like, what do you mean? She has an Instagram and I could just message Mrs. Claus anytime? Oh, no, it's an email. Totally not.
Nobody wants to deal with email anymore.
Or not the children anyway,
That's
right?
true. That's true.
Yeah, that's a good way to keep it hidden from them.
Right. Funny.
So, you also had that really fun app on your phone that you showed my daughter.
Right.
Before we came. What's that called?
Oh, let me grab that really quickly and find that. Yeah, there are a lot of really cool apps out there. I have actually one on my iPad too, which is a little different. This is, so it's called the Naughty or Nice app. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put your name in, okay?
Uh-oh. I didn't know I was volunteering for this.
Okay, and what you're going to do, there's a peppermint icon on there, so go ahead and put your finger on there. Ooh. And leave it on there. And we're going to see if Rosa is naughty or nice.
Ah, the suspense is killing me.
Come on.
He's checking the list twice. Ooh. Oh,
naughty!
It says I'm naughty too. That must be where my daughter gets it from.
Probably so.
Oh, well.
That's funny.
Thank you for choosing to be in my presence, even though I'm so naughty.
Yeah, you got it.
Well, I think you had brought a special treat for us tonight in that you're going to give a demo of reading The Night Before Christmas.
Right, definitely.
Yeah? Or 'Twas the Night Before Christmas.
That's right.
Excuse me.
That's right, exactly. Yeah, I can definitely do that. So, and it's kind of special. I really like this on so many levels, but again, this was written by Clement Clark Moore, and this poem is actually celebrating its 200th anniversary this year.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, how commemorative.
Right, 1823.
Whoa.
So, pretty amazing. That's something, well, I mean, I know that literature has endured much longer than that, but just to have something like this that people don't even think about.
Yeah.
So,
this was old when my grandparents were born.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Wow. So
I didn't realize it was that old.
Yeah. Should I start now then?
Yes.
Okay. 'Twas the night before Christmas when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care and hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Mamma in her kerchief and I in my cap had just settled down for a long winter's nap. When, out on the lawn, there arose such a clatter, I sprang from the bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters, and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new-fallen snow gave the luster of midday to objects below, when, what to my wondering eyes should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer. With a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be Saint Nick. More rapid than eagles his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donner and Blitzen, to the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, now dash away, dash away, dash away all. As dry leaves that before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle, mount to the sky, so up to the housetop the coursers they flew, with a sleigh full of toys, and St. Nicholas too. And then in a twinkling I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my head and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry. His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard of his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke it encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work, and filled all the stockings, and turned with a jerk. And laying his finger aside of his nose, and giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim ere he drove out of sight, "Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night." Oh, thank you. I love this so much.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing
Certainly.
your joy with us
Thank
and
you.
spreading holiday cheer. I know we're just coming up on Thanksgiving, but hey, they're playing the Christmas music on the radio already.
Definitely.
So you are not too early.
Yeah, definitely so.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Julie, for coming out.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode of the Lou Review podcast, subscribe so you'll be notified of the next episode. You can follow my foodie adventures all over Louisville and now beyond on @LouFoodReviews on TikTok and Instagram, and the Lou Review podcast on Facebook as well. And I'll see you in the next episode.